So just a fair warning for everyone, I just got home from an orientation day for my new job, which means my head is kind of overwhelmed with information right now and it's feeling a little squishy. So this may not be the best recap video ever. But that being said, I kind of need to get it done now because all of my housemates are out of the house, and especially with the new job, finding time to do things where it's quiet and everything is kind of tricky. So with that being said, this is the first week of May, which means it's time for the rest of the April recap. The first thing that I read in April was the Bermudez Triangle by Maureen Johnson. I'm a huge fan of Maureen Johnson, and this book definitely didn't disappoint. It's a coming-of-age story about three best friends who refer to themselves as the Bermudez Triangle. One of the things I particularly really like about this story is that it actually has, one of the three main characters is actually a lesbian. And while homosexuality as a whole is underrepresented in young adult literature, you're much more likely to find stories that involve young gay men as opposed to young gay women. So I think it's really awesome that this kind of book exists, and it's of as high a quality as it is. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I also read Shizuko's Daughter by Kyoko Mori. This was another book that I read for my class. It's about a young girl named Yuki who's comes home from a piano lesson when she's like 10 to discover that her mother had in fact committed suicide. And she's the one that finds her mother's body, and this story revolves around her coming of age story and how she copes with her mother's death and also the fact that her father remarries fairly soon after. Also deals with the Japanese culture surrounding family and familial expectations and how that affects her ties to her mother's family as time goes on and as her father remarries and stuff. I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff in the story. However, I didn't particularly enjoy reading it. It just kind of moved really slow and just not something I, in general, would have probably picked up on my own. I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. After that, I read The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. I absolutely loved this book. It was absolutely fantastic. It's so funny. I don't think I've ever laughed that much reading a book in years, if ever. One of the things that's really cool about this book is it's written as though it is the main character's diary. Junior is his name. And along with the story that he's telling, he includes a lot of drawing. The basic story is about Junior, who is a Native American or Indian who lives on a reservation, and he makes the decision that he's going to go to the local high school in the next town over because he can get a better education there, and that's kind of his ticket off the reservation. A lot of his neighbors and family have very negative reactions to this. He gets beat up quite a lot by kids from the reservation high school, and he also has a hard time assimilating into his new high school for various reasons, large portion of which has to do with his ethnicity and his heritage and everything. Overall, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. Like I said, it was really funny. The writing is fantastic. Sherman Alexie is really great at just really nailing that adolescent teen voice. The next thing I read was True Believer by Virginia Euwer Wolff. This was another book I read for my class. The kind of basic is that it's a coming of age story about a girl who lives in a very low income neighborhood and just kind of her struggles going through school and trying to get into college and all that kind of thing. I honestly can't even tell you what this book was about. I disliked it so much and had such a hard time reading it. I don't know what happened in the book. This book was so difficult. It's written in a poetic style. I don't really know that I would call it poetic because it doesn't really ever seem to have much of a rhythm to it, but it's not written in traditional prose. I think this is my lowest rating of the year so far. I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. The next thing that I read was Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. I really love this book. It's about a girl named Lena and her family who are deported from Lithuania to Siberia during the Second World War, and it basically documents or not documents, it's a fiction story, it's not nonfiction. But it covers their entire journey from the time that the police force busts into their house and does the official deportation through their trip to the different work camps all the way until they reach their destination. I'm actually going to do a more in-depth review of Between Shades of Grey, hopefully within the next couple of days. So if you click anywhere in the screen right here, it'll hopefully take you to that video once it's posted. The next book that I read was Legend by Marie Lu. It takes place in a dystopian future where there are two countries that America has been split into. This book specifically takes place in Los Angeles, which is in the Republic, and it's centered around two characters, Day and June. Day is a 15-year-old boy who is kind of this criminal mastermind. When the book starts out, his family house is marked as having someone in it has been diagnosed with the plague, and so he goes on this caper kind of thing to break into a hospital and steal some plague medication so he can get it to his family. In the process, a captain in the military is killed, which brings us to our other character, who is June. She's a young 15-year-old girl who's kind of a military prodigy, and she is the captain's sister, and when she finds out Day is the one responsible for having killed him, she's kind of on this mission to capture Day and bring him in and just bring a stop to everything he's doing. This book brings up a lot of interesting questions about government and civil disobedience and a whole mess of things. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on in this book, and it's the first in, I believe, what's going to be a trilogy. So there's more of the story to look forward to, which I'm very excited about. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. So when you count up all the books in this video, plus the ones that I mentioned in my graphic novel video, I read 12 books in the month of April, which brought me up to a total of 37, which is 49.33333 repeating % of the way through my 75 book goal, which is awesome. Basically, at the end of April, I was halfway through my book goal, which is fantastic as we're only a third of the way through the year. Especially because at the moment, things are going to start slowing down because I'm starting a new job, and I also am just kind of a little burnt out on book reading at the moment. Not to say that I'm stopping completely. That's all for today. Like I said, keep your eyes open for the Between Shades of Grey review. It should be up in the next couple of days. Thanks for watching. Bye!